Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Low Season Traveller Insider Guides. I'm your host, Jed Brown, founder of Low Season Traveller, and today I'm delighted to be joined by the aptly named Penny Walker, who is a creator and curator of sustainable adventures in the Pyrenees Mountains. Now, one of the reasons I love recording these podcast episodes is that I get to meet fascinating and passionate people from some incredible destinations around the world. And meeting Penny for this episode really got me thinking about the types of travel which can be enjoyed in the low seasons closer to home. So, we're working on some amazing initiatives and special tours at Low Season Traveller just now, and we're hoping to share those with you, our dedicated podcast listeners, first, but we'll tell you more about these in the coming weeks. For now, get yourself a cuppa, get comfy as we bring you over to the marvellous Pyrenees Mountains. Enjoy. So Penny, you are most welcome to the Low Season Traveller Insider Guides podcast. Great to have you with us.
Oh, it's fantastic to be here, Jed. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
You're very, very welcome. We're going to be talking all things Pyrenees today. And I will confess, Penny, I don't know a huge amount about the Pyrenees, and I've never been. So I think your big opportunity here is tell myself and all of the listeners at home, tell us, where are the Pyrenees first of all, and then I'm sure you'll be telling us just how wonderful they are as well.
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, you're certainly not alone in not having been to the Pyrenees before, Jed. I can tell you it's the Pyrenees Mountains are very much an under-the-radar destination, which makes them such a special part of the world. And for those who don't know, they are the mountain chain that links the Atlantic Ocean in the west with the Mediterranean in the east, and they form the natural border between France and Spain. Yep. So way down in the southwest of France, beautiful part of the world. And what I love most about them is that they are so easy to access. We're mainly based in the Central Pyrenees. That's where most of our activities take place. And you can get a flight into Toulouse airport if you have to fly. Otherwise, the train network is excellent. You can get the Eurostar from London over to Paris, hop on an overnight train down to Toulouse. And from there, there's a local network that takes you directly to the Pyrenees foothills within an hour. Very, very accessible, very easy to get here, and obviously you could drive as well.
Absolutely. It's funny actually, when we talk about trains, so we did a podcast actually which we've just released this week, but I'm not sure when our podcasts are going out, but the listeners will know that we did a Switzerland podcast, and it was my first time in Switzerland last week. And I was just amazed. I've never really done the train anywhere in Europe before. The trains in Europe generally, it's the same with France, of course, and Spain. They are so much better than the UK. So when we talk about trains, gosh, yeah. you can't think of UK trains, can you? There's no comparison.
Oh my goodness me, no. I mean, as you say, that the network in Europe is exceptional, and the French TGV trains, the rapid trains that link the major cities, are so efficient and so clean, and they have Wi-Fi on board. And quite honestly, I mean, even the prices are coming down for train travel in France, which is just fantastic to see.
Yeah. No, it is absolutely. So listen, tell us a little bit more then about the Pyrenees and what there is to do in the Pyrenees. And I'm very mindful that and let's say Switzerland opened my eyes when I was in the Alps, that there's, obviously very much you have clearly defined seasons, and there's probably different activities and different reasons for traveling to the Pyrenees, probably according to the time of the year. But talk us through, as best you can, talk us through, a year in the Pyrenees. How long have you been in the Pyrenees, by the way?
Oh gosh, I've been here for 14 years now. So
wow.
Yes, a long time, and it's just the most amazing place in the world to be, to live, to explore, because it is such an under the radar destination and so undiscovered. There is so much for the visitor to experience here. And as for talking you through a year in the Pyrenees, I mean, how long is the podcast episode? I could rubbish on about the Pyrenees and what there is to do here for hours.
Then, Penny.
Potted version, right? Let's start at the very beginning.
Well, just even through the seasons,
Yeah, I mean, this time of year, we're talking in the autumn here. We're at the end of October. Is the most spectacular time of year in the Pyrenees. The colours in the mountains are changing. We have the reds, the golds, the yellows. It's such a rich palette to feast your eyes on. That's the only way I can really describe it. And the weather, particularly this year, has been absolutely exceptional, with temperatures in the valleys into the mid-20s.
Wow.
This is you know, in the valleys and the mountains in the Central Pyrenees, which is where I'm speaking to you from. So, and the light, particularly in October and November, is so crisp and clear with no pollution, light pollution whatsoever. It just makes for the most incredible vistas in the mountain environment. It's my absolute favorite time of year. So talking low season, I'd say the autumn is by far the best time to visit.
And you know, I suppose that's a time for, I suppose, making the most. There must be some amazing treks around there. Is the cycling as well? I don't know.
Oh my goodness, yes, and yes. I mean, yes, the hiking. This is my particular passion. The high mountain hiking is really special in the autumn, particularly because the snows have not yet reached the high mountains. We're still snow free, even up at 2,500 meters altitude. So multi-day treks are still possible. There are mountain refuges that have winter quarters where you can bivvy, if you like. They have mattresses in the winter quarters. You just need to take a sleeping bag and your overnight bits and pieces and maybe some cooking equipment and spend a night in a mountain cabana, which is what I'm actually going to be doing tomorrow. I'm heading out into the Egg Tortoise National Park across the border in Spain. Spend 3 days actually hiking with a good friend, and yeah, we're going to be staying in the winter quarters of the mountain refuges and having a proper adventure. So,
right, I've got to find out a little bit more about winter quarters, because this is just something I'm not familiar with. This is like sort of camping. There's almost like sort of pre-made huts or something, or what is it?
Well, it's basically, they have the high mountain refuges throughout the Pyrenees. Normally in the summer season, they're catered. They have dormitories, they have rooms, and they provide food. But they also have, outside of the high season, when they're not catered, when there is nobody manning these refuges, they have a separate section that is equipped for hikers and mountaineers and even ski tourers in the ski season, where they can spend the night, have shelter, have a roof over their head, don't have to camp out. And they provide mattresses and usually blankets as well, although thanks to the pandemic, they have taken the blankets out so that you know, you have to provide your own sleeping bag and your overnight equipment. So it's basically just a section of what would normally be a manned refuge, a guarded refuge, as we call them here. Yeah. Very practical for those of us who want to spend a few days in the mountains and not have to take a tent.
Yeah. So these are all sort of mapped out on the maps. They're sort of, you can sort of see them clearly where they are, and you sort of plan your route according to where they are, I guess.
You can, absolutely, and there are also a couple of websites that give you details of each individual refuge and what the facilities are, and obviously the location and what hikes you can do from that particular point. They're very well situated, normally by a wonderful mountain lake, which is the case in the Egg Tortoise National Park, which is known as the land of 1,000 lakes. It's just the most spectacular place. So that is one of my favourite autumn activities. And it's something that we propose with some of the local guides in the area as well. They accompany our clients on sort of point-to-point circuits in the area, in the Spanish Pyrenees as well as in the French Pyrenees. Yeah. So it makes for a very special experience, particularly as these local guides know all the wildlife and the flora, the flowers that are out at any particular time of year. So they can really enable people to have a deeper, more meaningful experience up in the mountains, rather than just, you know, passing through and enjoying the scenery. So that's pretty special.
It makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Again, I was just remarking last week, we were very kindly, we were introduced to a local guide from Andermatt when we were in Andermatt. And this guy was showing us around for sort of 2 or 3 hours. Now, Andermatt is a tiny, tiny sort of place, but obviously it's in the Swiss Alps. But the stories that he talked about, the history of Andermatt, about the local flora and fauna, he brought it to life, you know, because I'd walked through Andermatt the night before. And yeah, it looked a pretty place, but that was pretty much all I could tell you is, you know, it's a pretty place. He brought to life the stories behind the buildings, why they're built this way, everything about it was just fascinating. And it just re-emphasized to me the strength of a local guide to really help you to understand and appreciate where you are. makes a huge
Oh,
difference.
absolutely. It really does. And I think particularly so in the Pyrenees, because the mountains were, in World War II, they were used by people escaping the Nazi regime. So there are all these escape routes across the high mountains at various points that were used by the elderly, by airmen escaping the Nazis, people escaping persecution. And the local guides know these stories. They know where the points are that people used to cross over into Spain, and they can really, as you say, enrich the experience and give you this background that you wouldn't know about otherwise. So yeah, it's such a special experience going with a local guide. It really is.
Love that. So as well as the trekking, at this kind of time of the year, cycling.
Oh,
Do you guys
cycling,
go
my
for
goodness.
did they go for the e-bikes as well there?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as you know, everybody knows the Pyrenees for the Tour de France. The Tour de France comes through here every year without fail. And it's a very special time of year. So, yeah, I mean, road cycling, obviously, but you do not have to be a hardcore road cyclist in order to be able to cycle the cols. Yeah. As you say, e-bikes are really a big thing here in the Pyrenees, exactly for that reason. Not everybody has got the legs, let's admit it. Excuse me. So yeah, e-bikes are very, very popular here, but there's not only the cols, you see, Jed, that we've also got hundreds of kilometers of gently undulating foothill roads, little quiet back lanes that pass through these authentic little villages where you can stop for a beer if you really fancy a beer, or a coffee or something. You know, again, it's sort of all part of having that local experience and really discovering the little back areas that most people miss. People come here for the Tour de France if they want to go cycling, and that's it. But there is so much more to discover on the back lanes of the Pyrenees.
I love that.
So
those e-bikes as well. I mean, for anybody out there, I tried them just for the first time last week. I mean, they're seriously good. I mean, because I'm not a cyclist, and where we were cycling, there was a few hills and stuff. I probably could have managed it all right. I'm relatively fit, but oh my gosh, I was just amazed at e-bikes really do allow cycling for those that maybe are less able. And I just thought, gosh, it's really very empowering, those e-bikes, because they're just a tremendous thing, aren't they?
Absolutely. And I think particularly so, I mean, I'm a cyclist. Well, I am a cyclist myself. I've ridden many of the cols in the Pyrenees here, but as you get older, obviously your body decides that this is maybe not the best thing to continue with, and you start to get certain physical issues that you can't really do much about. It's just part of the aging process. So I am now seriously considering getting an e-bike myself, because it will enable me to continue discovering, riding, exploring all these the cols in the area without having to put in the effort that my body no longer wants to put in.
But you do still get some exercise though. That's what I was surprised at. I thought an e-bike meant that it's almost like a motorbike, but just but electric. But it's not. You still have to pedal, so you do still get a workout.
Oh, you do, absolutely. You can choose the level of assistance that you want. You can have boost, or you can have your eco mode. It's entirely, as you say, up to you how much effort you want to put in. Yeah. I love, yes, e-bikes are the future, without a doubt.
Definitely are. Yeah. No, I tell you what, I'm really getting that now. Okay, so we move on to winter then. Now, the winter, obviously the snows come, the activities change. And I saw on your wonderful website, adventurecreators.com, for all of our listeners out there, and we'll include links in the show notes. But I saw, among other things, there's airboarding is one of the activities. See, I'm not a skier, but I know obviously it's amazing for skiing, isn't it, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, airboarding is bonkers. It is one of those activities that people do take part in as an alternative to skiing if they're up at the ski resorts. It is an absolutely crazy activity, and the teens love it. The teens absolutely love it. It's basically it's a Kevlar coated inflatable cushion with handles on the front. And it's a guided activity. You have an expert with you at all times to sort of take you through how to, maneuver the board, how to slow down at the bottom, obviously, how to stop and how to steer it. And you basically, you lie face down on this inflatable cushion. grab hold of the handles at the front, and then let loose down this dedicated slope at the ski resort. And it's absolutely crazy. And there is various jumps and sort of little mounds that you can fly over and sort of land with a thump on the other side and continue down to the bottom of the piste. It really is an adrenaline fueled activity that groups of teenagers, youngsters who want a bit of an extra thrill without having to put 2 planks on your feet. Yeah. It really is the activity of choice. It's crazy.
I love it. But I just kind of love all of that stuff, because I'm always sort of mindful that yes, a lot of people do like their skiing and they go skiing. Then there are people like me and my family. We've never been skiing. I get nervous about skiing because I'm older now. I'm sort of thinking it feels like there's more risk.
Absolutely.
But I want to go. But I want to go to the mountains in the winter. I want to experience that wintry, fresh snow, all of that. I want to experience that. But there are still ways you can experience it without being a skier.
Oh, totally. I mean, I'm in exactly the same boat, Jed. I've got all the gear and no idea. I've got the ski touring equipment. It's not the alpine setup. It's more the ski touring equipment, which enables you to go backcountry skiing. But I've never really clicked with skiing. I don't have the confidence to hurl myself down a slope. I've tried. I have put in some time to try and become a confident skier, but it's just not clicking with me. I don't get it. So, as you say, there is so much more that you can do in the winter in the mountains without having to put 2 planks on your feet. And for me, the main activity that I absolutely love in the winter is snowshoeing. I mean, a lot of people can be quite sort of sniffy about snowshoeing, but it's seriously one of the most environmentally friendly activities that you can do in the mountains, because there is no mechanization involved. You've got your own 2 feet and these snowshoes that you strap to your feet, and you can just go and explore the backcountry up into the high mountains, up onto the wonderful ridge lines where you've got incredible views of this winter wonderland. And you can see things and experience things that you simply will not do in a ski resort. You'll see animal tracks, you'll see deer tracks and fox tracks and various other animals that inhabit the mountains in the winter. And you can for me, it's just about soaking up the peace and the quiet and the sounds of nature. It's a very special experience to just be mindful in the mountains in the winter and let that absorb, let yourself absorb all the different sensations of nature. It's very special.
I would imagine as well, of course, that like I say, we don't have a huge amount of snow here in the UK every year. But when you do get snow, that's just something that you said there just reminded me. One of the things that you do notice when you go outside first thing in the morning and there's been a fresh snow is it's silent. Everything's sort of cushioned by it. And I'm just imagining, being in this huge expanse with these mountains there, but that silence, because everything's muffled by the snow. It must be just incredible, actually.
It's amazing. It really is. I mean, just sitting there, making the time. I think this is what people need to do these days: is make the time to just be, to just let this environment and that peace just soak into you, because it's like a complete mental reset. Yeah. And I think particularly having been through the pandemic and everything that's gone with it, to just allow yourself to be in the mountains and not have to do anything. It's a really mindful experience that can regenerate those mental batteries, and it also gives you a good physical workout, obviously, as well. Let's not forget that snowshoeing is not a pushover. It's a really special experience in the winter. I'd encourage anybody who's never been snowshoeing before to give it a go and just see what this incredible experience is about.
It sounds like it's just up my street. And again, you guys do guided snowshoe walking kind of tours and stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really important, I think, if you're going snowshoeing for the first time, to go with a local professional who knows the safest places to go to, who knows the most picturesque places to go to, and knows the weather patterns as well. Yeah. Because obviously when you're in the mountains, the weather can turn on a sixpence. You might get up in the morning and you've got wonderfully clear skies and it looks amazing, but that local guide has seen the local forecast and he knows the patterns in this area. He knows that we've got a bit of a front coming in the late afternoon, and that you need to be out of there by 4 o'clock or whatever. Yeah. So from a safety point of view, going with the local guide is absolutely invaluable. And I think also from the point of view of that deeper experience, like we were saying earlier, a local guide will be able to help you understand the environment and what the patterns are in the area, what the animals are, what that bird is overhead. It could be the bearded vulture that we have here, the rarest vulture in the whole of Europe that is breeding in the Pyrenees. We often see them in the skies in the wintertime, and I tell you, it's such a thrill every time you see one. It's like the lozenge-shaped tail and the sort of the colouring and this sort of beard underneath its chin, and you think, oh my God, look, it's a bearded vulture. It's such a thrill, really. And a local guide will enable you to have these deeper experiences.
Yeah, that's absolutely what we need. So then after winter, the snows eventually start to thaw. When do the snows start to thaw typically?
Typically now then, yeah, it's such a hard question to answer at the moment, Jed. Obviously, with climate change, it's quite unpredictable. But generally, I would say end of March, early April, because we're at a relatively low altitude here compared to the Alps, obviously. So when it comes to April and particularly into May and June, the river sports here obviously are absolutely exceptional because we've got all that snow melt. The snow is melting from the high mountains, that it just supercharges the rivers. So the river sports such as the rafting, the river canyoning, which is a big sport here. It's like canyoneering. It's like you go with a local guide again to a certain point up one of the rivers, and you descend the river by jumping into these deep river pools, by sliding down rock slides, by abseiling down waterfalls. Making your way down a particular part of the river course in the Central Pyrenees.
I want to do that.
I tell you, it's a real adrenaline fueled activity, particularly, as I say, in May and June, when we have got these supercharged rivers. But it's all very carefully managed, very carefully instructed. We work with only pure professionals who have been doing this for donkey's years. They know the river course. They know all the different rappel sections and such like. It's an activity that water lovers, river lovers absolutely love in the springtime. Yes, you've got to do it.
No, absolutely, for sure. That's another one on the list. And I guess then, as we move into spring, I guess the sides of the mountains and the whole area, it starts to almost take the feel of what meadows really. Do you start to get spring flowers?
Oh my goodness, May and June, particularly in June actually, is when the wildflowers are at their best. We have carpets of wild mountain iris on the high mountain pastures, orchids, some amazing orchids in the area as well. And there is such a variety of wildflowers up in the mountain pastures in May and June. It's such a sight to see. And I think particularly for people who want to, again, just be and absorb that beauty, I'd say, June is very much a good time to come and explore the Pyrenees. It's really pretty. It's also a time, I should say, when the wildlife is at its best, particularly the brown bear. I haven't talked about the brown bears yet, have I, Jed?
No, you haven't.
Brown bears. You see, the brown bears come out of hibernation March, April time. They generally hibernate normally from November through until January, February, but they do sometimes emerge during the winter to come out for a bit of food or whatever. It's not a deep hibernation with the brown bears. We have over 60 of them in the Central Pyrenees. It's an expanding population. There's a big reintroduction program going on. I mean, that's a whole big topic that I'm sure we could discuss in another episode. But they are coming out of hibernation generally, as I say, March, April time, and they are roaming the hillsides searching for food, obviously. They're hungry now that they've come out of hibernation. So there's a much better chance of seeing them, spotting them on in the mountains and by the mountain lakes at that time of year. And again, it's something that the local guides, they know the bear population in the Pyrenees well. They know pretty much where they're going to be hanging out. And they will take people, they can accompany people to areas where you've got the best chance of seeing them and being able to photograph them.
Incredible.
I tell you, I mean, I haven't yet seen a brown bear. I have not yet seen one. They're very private creatures, but I need to seriously spend some more time in the mountains this spring to hopefully, get a glimpse of one, take some photos.
Yeah. Oh, that would be outrageous.
Oh, I know.
And then in the summer, so the summer months, then what's the weather like there? Does it get quite warm? What's the experience like then?
Yeah, I mean, in the summer season, generally July and August, it can get hot. We can get into the mid 30s, 37, 38 even, down in the valleys. But up in the mountains, naturally you have the cooler conditions. For every 100 meters of altitude that you ascend, you basically can expect to drop 1 degree centigrade. So yeah, the mountains are much cooler in the summertime. August is obviously the busiest season. It's when the whole of France is on holiday in August. It's the school holidays, it's
not low season.
It's not low season. It's a season I always advise people to avoid if possible.
Yeah.
But you've got end of June, early July, when you've got these much warmer temperatures, but without all the tourists and travelers around. It's a very good time, I think, to appreciate the conditions in the mountains and to enjoy that warmth, but without having to share it with too many other people. But I must say, having said that, the Pyrenees, certainly our area of the Pyrenees, the Central Pyrenees, is never heaving. You're never having to jostle with people on the trail to when you're out on a mountain hike. You're never surrounded by loads of others, like I know is the case in some areas of the Alps in the summer season. So it's because it is a less discovered and more under the radar destination. I think it's a good choice for people who are looking to avoid being in contact with too many other people. That's my top tip.
Which is that's our low season traveler audience. We don't like crowds. We like to keep away from the busier kind of places, and we like to go a little bit, sometimes off the beaten track kind of thing. So it sounds like
exactly
the perfect place.
I think certainly for going off the beaten track, again, like we touched on previously, this is the role of the guides, the local guides. They know where you can go to escape anybody else on the trails. They know all the back footpaths, all the off the beaten path routes that you can explore where you are not going to see anybody else. Everybody goes to the honeypot lakes and the honeypot little mountain destinations that are pushed out by the tourist office. That's the tourist office's job. They don't want to be sending people off the beaten path because people need to be safe. They need to be able to navigate. They need to be able to know where they're going, what they're going to encounter. And that is very much what we do, enable people to have those off-grid experiences, but in safety with a local guide who knows the area intimately. Very much so.
Absolutely. It's interesting, that point actually on the tourist offices, and it's by no means a criticism of the tourist offices, but they have to cater to the majority. Exactly. Therefore, most of their activities is led towards what the majority of people do, which is usually all of the peak stuff and everything else. And I think that's why it's so important to have organizations, actually, to be fair, like ourselves at Low Season Traveller, but also like yourselves as well, where you can still do things a little bit differently and away from the main crowds. I'm conscious that we are running out of time, and this has been such a wonderful introduction to the Pyrenees. And I know it's really hard, Penny, because I've had a few guests say this. They say, it's impossible to sum up a destination in 1 hour or half an hour or anything else. And so I think you've done a fabulous job, by the way. But it isn't.
Thank you.
I know it's not. I know you could have a whole series dedicated to the Pyrenees.
Oh gosh, so much to say.
And still, you wouldn't cover everything. But before we do go, just with regards to your organisation, Adventure Creators, it's a wonderful website, adventurecreators.com. But also, what I was really impressed with is you have quite a commitment to sustainability, and obviously that's a huge part of our ethos at Low Season Traveller as well. Talk to us a little bit about the importance of sustainability for you and for your organisation in the Pyrenees.
Well, yes, my goodness, it's at the heart of everything that we do, quite simply. I founded the Adventure Creators with the aim of introducing people to the heart of the Pyrenees, everything that I'm passionate about in the Pyrenees, which is quite a lot, as I think you've maybe gathered. I want to introduce people not just to the adventures that they can have here, the outdoor activities, the hiking and the mountain biking, the road cycling, but also to life here. I want people to discover the local producers, the people who produce the sheep's cheeses, who produce craft chocolates, even beer and regional specialities. I want people to understand, to learn about life in the Pyrenees for that deeper, much deeper experience. So supporting the local communities in our area of the Pyrenees is absolutely fundamental. Putting something back into the communities by introducing people to the actors, the personalities that make up the life here is really important to the ethos of the business and the sustainability aspect of the business. So that really is at the heart of everything that we do. And this also comes down to using only local guides and local instructors. We don't use anybody who's come in for the season. Yeah. We only use people who actually live here, who live and breathe the Pyrenees, who understand the mountains here and the precious ecosystems, because there is so much I could say about the ecosystems here. Introducing people to the off the beaten path areas, as we've discussed, to give people a richer experience and enable them to return home having really had an in-depth stay that is going to create lasting memories and leave a really profound impact on them. That is really what is behind the Adventure Creators brand. Yeah,
I love that, and obviously it will leave a positive impact, behind in the destination as well, hopefully as well.
That is really important. Yeah, that is really important. And I think certainly, again, if I can just touch on the accommodation side of things, the low season accommodation, a lot of the hotels in the area do close down in the off season. That's just what they do. But the smaller B&Bs, the guest houses, they are open all year round. They're privately owned. These are people who live and breathe the Pyrenees. Again, they are the people who really appreciate the low season custom. They appreciate welcoming people. They welcome people into their homes with open arms and want to, again, tell them about the area and the experiences that they can have here. So working with the local guest houses is very much a part of what the Adventure Creators do in the Pyrenees.
That's absolutely wonderful. Penny, that is all we have time for this episode, but I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to share your passion. It's very clear your passion comes across so well, but it's lovely to have heard your passion firsthand, and for our listeners to kind of hear the passion of which you talk about the Pyrenees, and hopefully they will be inspired, as I certainly am, to visit myself at some stage, obviously during the low season months.
Well, it's been my absolute pleasure to chat all things Pyrenees, and thank you for giving me the opportunity, Jed. I really appreciate it. And,
good stuff. We'll do it again sometime, Penny, as well.
I hope so.
We need to cover off some more later on.
I look forward to it already, Jed. I'm looking forward to it already.
All right. Thanks a million, Penny.
Thank you, Jed. Take care now.
So there you have it. Huge thanks again to Penny for sharing her insights and passion with us today. And if you'd like to learn more about this region, Penny has provided some incredible and thorough, I should say, episode show notes for us, which you can find on the podcast page of lowseasontraveller.com. But that's our show for this week. As mentioned in the intro, we are currently working on a range of low season tours to places like India, Nepal, Costa Rica, Ireland, Switzerland, South Africa, and more. And all of these tours will be sustainable, community focused, and immersive experiences where travellers can join myself and some of our amazing Low Season Traveller team members for some unique and very special low season experiences. If you'd like to find out more, please do email me directly at jed@lowseasontraveller.com, and hopefully we will see you very soon somewhere very special. But that's all we've got time for just now. Thanks as always for your company. Have a great week wherever you are. Stay healthy, stay safe, keep your travel dreams alive, and if you'd enjoyed this episode, please do share it with your friends, family and social networks. Finally, remember that travel is kinder to the planet, fairer for the local communities, and a better experience for you, the travellers, when it's without the crowds.